and it seems like it's so much we're protecting this image, and I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier with the eating disorder and not wanting to speak out. This
Right.
image that we're these perfect people, and if we mess up, well, it wasn't our fault. It was something out of our control. It was our boots or this or that, and sometimes that does come
Right.
into play. But I think
Right.
it is taking that veil off, and I spoke about it this before, and just saying, we're human. We have problems, and it's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
We can still get the endorsements, or people still will tune into skating. Probably more so if they feel like they can relate to the athletes as opposed to this perfect ice queen image.
Yes, absolutely. I can't even, you said it right there. It's what are they protecting? What are they protecting? They're human. We're human. Um, I don't know. It's all new to me. It's what I hear. I sit there thinking, who advised them to say there was a boot problem, or there was a blade problem, or they didn't have, the training was. It's like who feeds them that, or is it just off the top of their head? I am. It's shocking to me. It's shocking to me because we would never get away with that. My mom would. It's like, no. If you want to complain, you wait till you get out into the car or the bus or your hotel room, and then you can complain. But ugh.
How about complaining about injuries? I mean, people will be so, if they have a bad skate, we find out that they have a hip problem, right afterwards.
I
Did
don't
people
like
complain?
that. I don't want to hear it. I really don't. Of course, I feel for you, but it takes away from. I don't know. It just seems not wimpy. That's the wrong word. It's whiny. It's whiny to me. And if it is that bad, don't compete. Is it the commentator's fault for, do they need this stuff to make it seem more interesting, to get people to watch? I don't know. I have no idea. I just know for me personally, it's a turnoff. It is. I don't like hearing about it. I don't.
Now, you were talking about agents and how Hollywood would come earlier. You obviously became, America's sweetheart overnight, in 1980, and you dated a lot of famous people. Did all of this, being in a different world, adjusted from skating to Hollywood, how much did that impact, your addiction and everything? We were wondering. You dated rock stars,
I dated.
You've had a life.
Oh my God. I think because I lived here, it's just part of it was a natural. It was just natural. I mean, here in you're surrounded by it. You can't get away from it. And back then, because we were on TV a lot, and we were very popular. And I would walk into a room, and all the heads were turned, and people would come to you. That was just the way it was. Was it fun? It was absolutely fun. It was the best time in the 80s. But you've got to learn to pace yourself. I didn't know it, but I wanted to bring more. It's part of my story. I learned my lesson. I've learned to pace myself. I've learned who my real friends are. I have a handful of friends who I can trust now. I can count on one hand the ones who I would reach out to. You just have to know your limits. I didn't know my limits. And as we see here, there are a lot of young girls who don't know their limits. I just think it's part of the process, and you have to stumble and fall. You have to make mistakes to get it right, further down the road. And I did. I learned my lesson. I learned it the hard way.
And with learning that lesson, as we start to wrap things up, I read an article, and I could relate to so much of what you said in this. You said after 1980, you were, as Dave talked about, America's sweetheart. You had all this stuff going. And you said, but I still didn't know how to balance a checkbook. It was these little things that I think so many skaters, when we leave the sport, we're mature beyond our years. We have to handle pressure and being able to just be on it and be out there in front of so many people. But it's those little life things that maybe we stumble with that can start to mount and contribute to other problems. So what advice? So many skaters have come to me saying, at every level, leaving the sport, they're kind of lost. What advice would you have for skaters who are looking to step off the ice and into a new life?
I think communication is huge. It was a big part of my problem, just not knowing I think I had the voice. I think it was there. I just didn't know I was allowed to use it. I mean, just now, just recently, in the last 5 years, it's like you've got a voice. You're allowed to use it. You're allowed to say, "I'm tired." You're allowed to say, "No, I don't want that," or "I don't want this," or "Yes, I want that." You know, you're allowed. But I think communication is a huge thing. And as skaters, sometimes, and I think more with the girls, we're afraid to complain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're afraid. We don't want to complain. We want to be stoic, and we want to be strong, and we want we want to be that perfect girl, that perfect skater, and not all of us have that.
I don't think that's real. I think we're sold this image that a perfect athlete, there's no tears, there's no sweat, our makeup is perfect all the time. We always look perfect way, but like
Right.
it is that communication, I would imagine.
It's communication, and reaching out, and just people may say no, and that's okay. So you reach out to someone else, but know that it's okay, and know that now you have me, we have you two to reach out to if there's a problem. It's like you said, Jenny, they're not alone. You're not alone. I'm not alone. We're there for you. So use us. That's why we're here now. This is my way of giving back to my sport, is my voice, my mistakes. Learn from my mistakes. As I tell my son, who's also an athlete, he's a tennis player. He knows. He's seen me struggle. I said, Scout, learn from mom's mistakes. And he does. He does. I see him watch me, and he's now starting to communicate and ask questions about my past, about my coach, and how we communicated with each other. So it's use your voice. Use your voice.
So Tai, this is the Skating Lesson Podcast, and we wanted to know, what did you learn from going from being world champion to the 1980 games, the most famous, maybe 9-10 months of your career? What did you learn from the entire experience?
The experience from going from Worlds to the Olympics?
Yes, just that whole whirlwind.
Oh my goodness. Oh dear. And it was a whirlwind. It was, Mr. Nix factors into this big time, because he was able to, because there was a lot of interview requests, a lot of TV, a lot of press, a lot of that stuff, a lot of Hollywood stuff, and he was able to, for us, say no to a lot of people, because he knew that the next year from Worlds into the Olympics was going to be a bitch, training wise. It was tough. It was a lot of work. Yet you want some of that press. You're going to need some of that press in your corner at some point in your career. So he knew how to pick and choose, and so I have to thank him for that. But it's interesting, because after we won Worlds, great night. It was one of those performances, and it was pretty perfect. Mr. Nix let us enjoy it and celebrate for about 3 days. And then it's, back to work. It's like, don't get too high on your horse, because now the work begins. Now the work begins. So it was just staying focused as much as you can during that crucial time. And I have to thank him for that, because he kept control of the madness on the outside. And when we were in the rink, it was train. So yeah. A great coach, a great, strong coach.